Alrighty, so here I have two Hobbywing XR8 G3 censored motors. These are the 4268 motors they use for typically 1/8 scale, like buggy, truggy, things like that. And these are the off-road versions. So I just wanted to highlight an issue I've now had with two of these motors. And you can see here it's pretty clear written split motor. So if you have a look closely here, between the 8th and 9th ribbing from, the rotor side, between the 8th and 9th ribbing, you can see that there's a bigger gap here between the ribs. And it's not super obvious on this one. You can pull it apart and sort of, wiggle it and see it, but it's more obvious on this one. You can pretty clearly see there's a bigger gap there between the ribs on this motor. And yeah, this is now the second motor. This is a 1900, this is a 2200, and they've both split at this exact same area. So I'm not sure if it's just to do with where they press fit the cans and glue them together, whether it just, that's the weakness point, and it just seems to, after a fair bit of abuse or, a bit of a beating, it just gives up. But yeah, it's split at the same point, and it's quite disappointing given the price and given how well these are reviewed and how well built they feel out of the box. So yeah, this is off-road too, so you would think that these would last a bit longer. Like, I think this one was only like 2 months old and only had a few runs on it. But essentially what I'm thinking happens is that on the S-Works and the Mugen and things like that, the motor mounts on the front here. So there's a motor mount that screws into the front, and the whole rest of the motor is basically just free floating above the chassis. So all the leverage is on the back here. So when, like, after a hard landing and the chassis flexing, no doubt that at some point the motor would flex and hit the chassis, or even if it didn't, it would, because all the leverage is on the back here, where it flexes, because it's only mounted on the front, this whole ribbing, gets quite a lot of stress through it. So it has to sort of hold up to that force. So I'm guessing just after enough times, that's what causes this split. But I would have thought, given these are off-road motors, that it would be able to handle that sort of abuse, at least for a bit. Just to add in here as well, these marks here on the top of the motor, that's just from the fan mounts. When I had the fans mounted on them, that's just from it rubbing on the motor, so it's inconsequential. And I did actually have padded, like, sticky foam layered quite thick underneath the motor, between the chassis and the motor, to try and pad it and sort of cushion it. But that only does so much, and it does wear through the foam eventually. So yeah, it doesn't really help that much in the long term. Now look, I'm not saying that this is an issue with Hobbywing. I'm not sure, because our track is pretty brutal on cars. It's hard packed, it's got a lot of jumps where you can flat land. So these motors cop an absolute beating. But at the same time, I would have thought that these would last a bit longer. It's fair to say that I've been put off now Hobbywing motors. I'm going to try another motor and ESC combo and see how that goes. I've also had a mate who has split 2 of these motors as well. So yeah, it doesn't seem to be really an issue with other people that I've spoken to. No one has really encountered, this splitting of the motor here. So maybe it's just our track and, how brutal it is. But yeah, I don't know. What's your thoughts? Is this an issue? Is this a manufacturing issue? Or is this just a case of, unfortunately, it's just not able to withstand the forces that these cars go through on our track after jumps and things? What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments.